Hey guys, it's Ivan, and today we are proud to present to you the new module in our 1U line, the running order. As many of you know, the running order is a 2-channel performance trigger sequencer, clock divider, and multiplier. It has 2 sequencer modes, namely the SH101 and Euclidean, with different per-step features such as probability, ratcheting, and Euclidean offset. Let's quickly check out the panel UI. It's very much similar to the running order 3U version. Over here we have 2 buttons that work as mutes, or as step and rest input for the sequencer. Next we have the rate or clock divider knob with the clock input below it, 2 repeats knobs that set various parameters for the sequence, 2 reset inputs over here, the clock output, and track 1 and track 2 output. And we also have a switch over here that can select for track 1 edit, track 2 edit, or live mode in the middle position. Let's check out the SH101 mode, where we can add active steps and rest steps using these 2 buttons to create our sequence. To show how this works, I will be using the running order 1U as a sequencer and 2 of cups as a sound source. Let's patch the track 1 output to trigger the first voice on the 2 of cups, track 2 output to trigger the second voice on 2 of cups, and the output of 2 of cups will go directly to Ghost for some effects processing. In the most simple form, to create a sequence for track 1, we flip the switch to the left position, and now we can start adding the active steps that will actually trigger the voice using the first button, and rest steps that are just the mute steps using the second button. So let's quickly sketch out a sequence. Let's add an active step, 3 rests, active, 2 rests, active, active, 3 rests. Once we flip the switch to the middle position, the pattern will start playing. Now let's create a sequence for track 2. We can start with the rest. Let's unmute it. Let's change the sample for the second track. Now we can start adding repeats to the steps using these 2 knobs. We can adjust the speed of the pattern using the rate knob. We can also add probability and ratcheting per step by using the onboard pods repeats 1 and repeats 2 to create a more complex sequence. And if this is not enough, we can extend our patterns by using the repeats knobs that repeat steps, creating a much longer sequence. To delete the track 1 and track 2 sequence, we simply flip the switch to the left and add 1 rest step, flip the switch to the right and add another rest step. This means that now our patterns are empty. To add ratcheting and probability per step, we simply flip the switch to the left, and now for track 1, the repeats 1 controls the ratcheting and repeats 2 controls the probability. For example, to create ratcheting per step, we simply set the ratcheting knob position to, let's say, 3 repeats and add a step. Then we can set it to 0 repeats, add a step, then some rests, then we want some more repeats, we add a step, then 0, and flip the switch to the middle position to hear the pattern. For the track 2, we flip the switch to the right position, and now the controls are inverted, so the repeats 2 controls the ratcheting, and repeats 1 controls the probability. So let's create a sequence for the hi-hats. We simply add some normal steps, then rests, then some ratcheting steps, some rests, some normal steps, ratcheting steps, and now let's audition our sequence. Now let's say we want to change our first pattern for track 1 and add some probability to the steps. We just flip the switch to track 1 position, and similarly with ratcheting we are now tweaking the repeats 2 knob. So let's add some normal steps, some rests, and some probability steps. So now the probability will be around 50% over here, some rests, maybe occasional ratcheting, some rests. So now let's hear the sequence. We can do the same for the hi-hats, but now the repeats 1 will control the probability of the sequence. So let's add some steps with full probability, some with variable probability, some rests, variable probability, and some ratcheting. Let's hear the sequence. Now we can increase the speed of our sequence. We can pitch down the kick drum. Apart from using the repetitions at the rate of the clock, we can use the tuplet mode that can create triplets, quadruplets, and other measures. To activate it, we need to sync the running order to external clock and put the clock divider to fully counterclockwise position, indicating the tuplet mode over here. We can use one of the Airstreamer end of cycle output as a clock. So we'll just plug it over here, make it a little bit faster. Now let's create some simple sequences in SH101 mode for track 1 and track 2. Now let's flip the switch to the middle position and unmute our tracks. Let's set the repeats to counterclockwise position. Let's change the sequence for track number 2 with just 1 active step and 3 rests as well. The next mode is called Euclidean, which can be accessed by hold pressing one of the track buttons. In this mode, we can set the Euclidean length and the number of steps within the Euclidean circle to create the pattern. To activate it for the track 1, let's flip the switch to the edit mode and press the track 1 button until the LED lights up fuchsia. Let's do the same for the second track by holding the track 2 button. And now we can unmute the tracks. And as you can hear, we don't really have any sound because we have to set the number of steps within the Euclidean circle using the repeats 1 for track 1 and repeats 2 for track 2. Additionally, we can rotate the pattern and adjust the global probability for each of the tracks using the repeats 1 and repeats 2 within the edit mode. So let's try to rotate the hi-hats track over here. Let's unmute the sequence. And start rotating again. This can be very useful to create a more variety in your rhythm, as generally you cannot set the start position of the Euclidean circle without the rotation. Now let's create a more interesting sequence by utilizing the clock output from the running order to sequence the total recall, which will sequence the sample on the track 2 of the 2 of cups. Let's connect the clock output to trigger the total recall. Let's unmute our tracks. And patch this to Meta 2 CV input. Now we can use the rate knob as either multiplier or divider. As you can see, using Euclidean mode is fun and easy, but I really like using it for creating trigger patterns for your melodic voices. Let's make a bass voice using the GODSPEED and the Ghost and create a stream of notes on the ground control. Let's patch the GODSPEED even odd output to the input of the Ghost. Let's connect the Airstreamer 4 to the pre-VCA. Now let's connect the pitch output from track 1 on the ground control to the GODSPEED pitch input. And let's connect the gate from track 1 on the ground control to trigger the Airstreamer 4 envelope. Now let's audition our sequence from the ground control. Now what we can do is swap out the gate output from the melodic track on the ground control to be sequenced by one of the Euclidean tracks on the running order. First we'll have to clock sync the running order to the ground control to make sure that the stream of pitch notes lines up with the triggers. Let's unmute track number 1 and patch the gate from the track number 1 on the running order. Let's start our sequence. Once you find the desired sequence for any of the two tracks, you can save up to 8 patterns per each of the tracks. To do this, simply hold 2 of the buttons in live mode and change the pattern for track 1 using repeats 1. For example, it can be pattern 0 now, pattern 1, pattern 2, and so on. The currently selected pattern that you have will be saved as soon as you switch to the next pattern. I hope you have enjoyed watching this running order 1U walkthrough. As you can see, it's packed of many features for trigger sequencing and utility clock division and multiplication in only 22 HP in the 1U format. And it is one of those modules that is very easy and direct to create interesting patterns and rhythms on the fly. That is all for today. Don't forget to press the like button and subscribe to not miss our future videos. We'll be back shortly. Have fun making music. We'll see you next time.